Okay, look at my character right now. Okay, let me claim that. That was a weird, like, little glitch. As I was joining in the game, my character's textures had not loaded. But in this video, guys, we're going to be going over the fastest rod progression guide. Basically, the best rods you need from level 0 all the way up to, I guess, level 500 plus, 1,000 even. Kind of scaling you all the way up through your progression, and what I recommend as a player, and what my friends have told me they recommend as well, going all the way up to a level 1000. Quite a few of my friends actually they are level 1000, and a lot of them use the seraphic rod, but that's not the only rod that they recommend using for various reasons and things. So what I'm going to try to do in this video is take just a step-by-step guide and reasoning with you guys on why some of these rods specifically might be of most benefit depending on your level and when you start out with the game. And if you're a viewer on this channel that perhaps for some reason haven't played Fish yet, and you're starting to play Fish, and maybe you're level 10 or so, and you don't know which rods to really step-by-step go about upgrading and progressing with, maybe this will give you some enlightenment to an extent. So guys, hit the like button, and well, let's dive into this. Now, some of the first, if not the first rod that you're going to find yourself buying is probably going to be, you guessed it, the carbon rod. Now, the carbon rod's usually the first go-to, and this is, honestly, you could probably just use codes. You could probably use, like, codes just to get this rod with money. So you wouldn't even really have to fish. Like, if you join in on the game at a select time, you can probably use in-game codes. Now, a lot of times Fish will give you codes. The devs will give codes with their latest updates, and a lot of times they also do double XP with the updates. So if you happen to start playing Fish during a double XP weekend or a new update weekend, you're probably going to get introduced a code as well with that, which may give you extra bait or even money to buy the carbon rod and start you off. A lot of times these codes don't really give a significant amount of money, but for a new player, it actually is monumental, right? So the carbon rod, I definitely recommend, and that would be a good starter rod from, when you start out, you're going to have your basic rod, save up for a carbon rod. You can even, a carbon rod, but also there's the steady rod too. So those are all recommendations. Now, I recommend for early games, say you're in your early game stages and, you're starting to really learn the fundamentals of getting money. So, right, you're going to see stuff like the plastic rod, the training rod, carbon rod. Here's what we were talking about. It's 2,000, good little startup there. Fast rod, lucky rod, stuff like this. So, on the first island, I would just save up and buy the carbon rod, which is right here, right? I would get the carbon rod there. And that is going to be your first rod that you probably end up purchasing and getting started with as you progress into the world of Fish. Next up would probably be the steady rod, I believe, which allows you to pretty much start catching megalodons and everything right at the start of the game, which is a huge benefit because the steady rod, you can, like, if there's a megalodon event or something and you're still a new player, you can use that steady rod to still go and catch the megalodon. So that is a key point as well, which is a huge benefit, right? So, and there's going to be crates and stuff around too, but this is where you get the steady rod, I believe, if I remember correctly. What do we have here? Rapid rod. Steady rod, yep. So that is obviously going to be 7,000. You could just skip the carbon rod, go to 7,000. Depends on your playstyle and your value. Me personally, I saved up, got the steady rod, and used that all the way up to Rod of the Depths, which this was before we've got some of the recent updates. This is an updated progression guide. So, mind you, we're going to be going over things that are kind of recommendations on that. So, where is the best place to farm money, though? I would recommend probably Mariana's Veil now. The latest update, okay? So, as a progression guide, you're probably going to find yourself, obviously, working towards getting money fast. And I recommend Mariana's Veil for a lot of reasons. You can also, go into the volcanic vents through that, the first little section there, and you can work on that and build up money to get the volcanic rod, which is a really darn good rod for 300k. It is a really good rod and one I recommend as maybe like a mid-game rod getting up there. The volcanic rod is going to serve you really well, and I definitely recommend the volcanic rod, which you'll get in the first section of Mariana's Veil. We got guides up on how to do all this stuff and these rod locations if you guys need specifications for that, but a lot of them are pretty much out in the open, right? So also another mid-game rod, or I'm going to fall into the category of mid-game rods, would be, let's go ahead and open up some of the rods I have here. Also, the Arctic rod, people are lessening, not using it as much, but it's still a solid rod, so that's worth noting. obviously you got some of these other Heaven's Rod. That's an in-game rod. That's a late game. We're not gonna get to that yet. So Leviathan's Fang, kind of like an in-game, honestly. So we're gonna go through here and let's see. There was one rod. Poseidon Rod gets up there inexpensive, but you could go to Rod of the Depths. But honestly, with the updates and how things have been recently, it's just not really a rod that really peaks out much right now. So yeah, my next take would probably be the Tempest Rod and I think it's the Challenger Rod, right? I think it is the Challenger Rod and the Tempest Rod. Challenger's Rod, if you know you're going through Mariana's Veil, you can pick it up there, which I think the Challenger's Rod is slightly better than the Tempest Rod, so I would recommend that as your mid-game rods for sure. Tempest Rod, Poseidon Rod is still good. Zeus Rod, it's debatable. It got nerfed recently. That's why I'm not directly recommending the Zeus Rod, but the Poseidon Rod has always been solid, and I still enjoy this rod a lot. And like I said, I also enjoy the Tempest Rod a lot. If you have the Challenger Rod, like I said, that's even better, right? So moving beyond that, late game rods. These are rods, some which I don't even have at the moment. Is going to be No Life Rod. This rod will... You're going to see level 1000 still using the No Life Rod for various reasons across the board. It just is useful for specific reasons and a variety of reasons. So the No Life Rod is going to be an in-game rod that you're going to progress up to as you get level 500 and stuff of that sort, right? That's where you're going to find yourself using that a lot. Then also, if we come here, we're going to see the Heaven's Rod, which is also a good in-game rod with hasty enchant. The only reason why Clever enchants on my No Life Rod, I use it as my level up rod too. Usually whatever rod I'm using to level up, I'm going to obviously have Clever enchant on it. Hasty Heaven's Rod is just, the Heaven's Rod is a leisure rod for me. I like to use it when I'm catching something, or I want a heavenly enchanted orca or something off the wall like that, right? This rod is always reliable and always good. Now, beyond that, though, you have the Ethereal Prism Rod. Now, the Ethereal Prism Rod is one that got introduced in the recent update, and it is an in-game rod at the most. It's $15 million for the Ethereal Prism Rod, but it can also make you so much money so quickly. So, yeah, I recommend definitely utilizing Mariana's Veil to your highest ability for making money, and also just kind of skyrocketing past what, you know, now if you are a new player, you're going to be able to progress way quicker and better. So, also, Leviathan's Fang Rod can be decent. I never really took a liking to the rod, so I'm not going to recommend it here on this tier list. Or, you know, it's kind of like a tier list, right? So, that's the rundown on that. The Kraken Rod's a fun rod. Now, if you're like, well, what about the Kraken Rod? You didn't mention that. It's a fun rod. I do like the Kraken Rod a lot. So, yeah, guys, that's kind of like a progression rod guide video that I wanted to kind of walk you guys over today. More videos coming. We got a major fish update on the 13th for the Hunt Mega Edition. So I'll see you guys then.